The order it started as a whisper in the sky. Early in the morning, people across the world looked up and saw strange lights forming above the clouds. At first, it was faint thin streaks of silver that shimmered like cracks in glass. Then the sea. Cracks widened, glowing brighter until the sunlight itself seemed dim. The lights split apart. A gigantic hologram appeared in the heavens, stretching across the sky from one horizon to the other. It wasn't a flag or a human message. It was something alien, swirling symbols and a crest of glowing blue fire. Those who had seen images from deep space, news recognized it instantly. The Galactic Council had arrived. The voice came next. It wasn't heard through speakers. It wasn't even sound. It was inside every person's head, a deep, cold voice that seemed to echo in the bones. People of Earth, you stand accused of defiance against the galactic order. You will kneel. You will submit, or you will be erased. The message hit everyone at once. Children cried. Soldiers clutched their helmets. In every city, people stopped moving, staring at the sky with fear in their eyes. The words were repeated in every human language at the same time, leaving no one confused about what was being demanded. In the United Earth Alliance Command Center, leaders gathered around a long table covered in screens and holograms. Maps of the solar system showed alien dreadnoughts moving toward Earth, each one the size of a city, bristling with weapons older than human civilization. The president's voice was tense. How long until they are in firing range? An officer answered, 24 hours, maybe less if they push hard. The room erupted in arguments. We must surrender now. Surrender means slavery. If we fight, we will lose. Billions. The debate raged not far from the shouting and fear. In a small apartment on the outskirts of New Berlin, Captain Ryland Kane sat alone. His hair was longer now, his military uniform gone. He had left the fleet years ago, after a war that nearly killed him. But this was different. The streets outside were silent. The alien hologram hung over the city like a second sun. People walked quickly, eyes down, afraid to even look up. Raylan's tablet buzzed. An encrypted message flashed across the screen. Unknown sender. He almost ignored it until he saw the words. The Black Armada is ready. Ryland froze. Black Armada wasn't a rumor, it was a shadow. A secret fleet built in the aftermath of the last alien invasion. Ships designed to break the Council's power if they ever came for Earth again. Even in the fleet, only a handful of people knew it existed. And now, it was awake. He opened a secure channel. This is Kane. Who is this? A woman's voice answered. Calm, sharp, familiar. Commander Tessa Ward. You always said they'd come back. Well, they're here. Ryland's heart beat harder. What's our status? Fully armed. Stealth fields engaged. Awaiting your command, Captain. He took a breath. Then prepare the Armada. We move tonight. Up in orbit, the alien ships were already positioning themselves around Earth. Their black hulls shimmered with shield energy, making them look like floating mountains lit by storms. Civilian satellites caught the images and broadcast them across every channel. News anchors spoke in low, nervous voices. The words surrender and unconditional submission filled the airwaves. Social feeds flooded with panic. In the else. Shadows of an asteroid field beyond Mars, the Black Armada began to wake. The flagship Midnight Spear was the first to power up. Its engines hummed, sending deep vibrations through the hangar decks. One by one, smaller warships lit their reactors. Each vessel was black and sharp-edged, built to absorb radar and vanish into darkness. On the bridge of the Midnight Spear, Tessa Ward watched as status lights went green. Pilots ran pre-flight checks. Gunners loaded plasma rounds the size of small cars. Engineers sealed armored plating over the reactor cores. Fleet at 90% readiness, she reported Dot from Earth. Raylan's voice came through her headset. Make it 100. We launch the moment the sun sets. Back in the command center, the debate had reached its breaking point. The president turned to her ministers. The council has given us 1 day. We cannot decide in anger. We will meet again in 6 hours. But Rylan had already made his decision. He stood at the doorway, his voice cutting through the room. We don't have 6 hours. If we wait, we lose the first strike. Some recognized him, some didn't, but they all heard the certainty in his tone. The president frowned. And you intend to do what, Captain Kane? What I was trained to do, he said, and left without another word. Night came. The alien. Holograms still burned in the sky, the council's voice echoing every 2 hours. Kneel or be erased? But in the black void beyond Mars, humanity's answer was already moving. The Black Armada slipped free of the asteroid shadows, stealth, fields wrapping them in darkness. They were ghosts in the night, unseen and unheard. No one on Earth knew. The council didn't suspect yet. The clock was ticking, and the galaxy was about to learn something it had forgotten. Earth does not bow. The refusal morning came heavy. With fear, the alien hologram still hung in the sky, glowing like a second sun. All across Earth, its cold message repeated every 2 hours. Kneel or be erased. Shops stayed shut. Schools stayed empty. The streets were quiet except for the sound of distant military patrols. People whispered to each other in markets and crowded apartments. Some spoke of hiding. Others spoke of leaving Earth entirely, though everyone knew there was nowhere to run. In the underground headquarters of the United Earth Alliance, the air was tense. Ministers, generals, and admirals sat around a glowing table showing the alien. Fleet in orbit. The arguments had started the moment the meeting began. We must send a surrender signal before they fire. If we kneel, we lose our freedom forever. You want freedom? Freedom is worthless if everyone is dead. The president sat at the head of the table, silent, listening. She had not spoken yet. The doors opened without warning. Captain Rylan Kane stepped inside. His black jacket bore no insignia. His boots were dusty from the streets. He didn't wait for permission to speak. If you surrender, Earth dies slowly. If you fight, we have a chance. Several people frowned. One minister said, "We don't even have a fleet strong enough to." "We do," Rylan cut in. "It's just not in your records." He placed a small black device on the table. The room's central hologram flickered, and suddenly new shapes appeared. Warships, black and sharp like blades, bristling with weapons no one had seen in decades. The ministers stared. The Black Armada. One admiral whispered. The president's eyes narrowed. "I thought that project was shut down after the Krell War." "It wasn't shut down," Rylan said. "It was buried. Hidden so deep that even the council couldn't find it. And now it's ready." One minister's face twisted. "Those ships are illegal under the Galactic Weapons Treaty. If we use them, we'll—" Rylan slammed his hand on the table. "They've already come to destroy us. That treaty means nothing." The president leaned forward. "How many ships?" "Enough to hit them hard. Enough to scare them." A general scoffed. "And if we lose?" "Then we go down fighting," Raylan said, his voice steady. "On our feet. Not on our knees." Silence filled the room. No one wanted to admit it, but his words stirred something in them. The president studied him for a long moment. "Finally," she said, "I can't order this. If the Black Armada attacks, it will be without the Alliance's approval." "Then don't." "Approve it," Rylan said. "Just don't try to stop me." Her eyes narrowed again, then she gave a small nod. "God help you, Captain." That night, Rylan left Earth aboard a small, unmarked shuttle. The journey was silent, only the hum of the engines breaking the stillness. Far out in the shadow of an ice-covered asteroid ring, the Black Armada waited. The flagship Midnight Spear loomed ahead, its dark hull swallowing the starlight. Around it floated dozens of other warships, destroyers, frigates, and stealth cruisers, each one dormant, silent like predators before the hunt. As Rylan stepped onto the Midnight Spear's bridge, Commander Tessa Ward turned to face him. "Captain." "On deck," she said, and the crew rose to attention. Raylan nodded once. "Status? Fleet readiness at 90%. Stealth fields holding. Weapons fully armed." "Good," Rylan said. "Transmit to all ships." A moment later, his voice echoed across the Armada. "You all know why we're here. The Council thinks Earth will bow. They think fear will break us. Tonight, we show them what happens when humanity refuses to kneel." The answer came back, a single cry from hundreds of voices. "For Earth." Engines roared to life. The Black Armada slipped from its hiding place, vanishing into the black of space. Back on Earth, the alien hologram spoke again. "Your time is almost up." But somewhere in the darkness, humanity's answer was already on its way. The gathering storm, the Black Armada moved through the dark like a shadow with teeth. No lights, no signals, no trace. Only the silent hum of engines hidden deep inside black, blade-shaped hulls. On the Midnight Spear's bridge, Captain Rylan. Kane stood at the forward viewport, his hands clasped behind his back. Stars drifted slowly past as the asteroid field that had hidden them for years faded into the distance. Commander Tessa Ward stepped up beside him. "Fleet status, 98% combat ready. Stealth fields holding. Ammunition and fuel levels optimal." Rylan nodded. "And the Judicator?" "Her super weapon is charged, but once she fires, stealth will be gone." "That's fine," Rylan said. "We won't need to hide after that." The Armada's target was moving toward Earth, the planet killer. Weapon of ancient design, half the size of Earth's moon, escorted by a dozen Council dreadnoughts. It was slow, but once it reached firing range, Earth would have only minutes before continents were erased. If they were going to stop it, they had to strike before it reached the inner system. In the fleet's war room, the officers gathered around. A rotating hologram of the planet killer. Towers of weapon batteries dotted its surface, glowing with faint red heat. Massive shield generators pulsed in its core, making it almost invulnerable from long range. "Our best chance," Tessa said, pointing to a section near the equator, "is here. If we overload the shield grid at this junction, we can punch a hole big enough for a strike. And to get close enough to do that," Rylan added, "we have to go straight through their escort fleet." No one spoke after that. Everyone knew the meaning once the fight started. There was no retreat. In the hangars, crews worked without pause. Gunners tested plasma lances. Pilots climbed into their fighters, running pre-launch checks. Engineers slid explosive charges into missile bays, locking them in place with heavy clunks. On the destroyer Shadowfang, a gunner muttered to his partner, "Feels like we're loading for the end of the world." His partner gave a thin smile. "Maybe we are. Let's make sure it's their world." Halfway to their destination, the Armada's stealth sensors caught movement ahead. A Council patrol line, 15 ship, was sweeping the sector. Tessa studied the readings. "If they see us, they'll alert the planet killer. We'll lose." The element of surprise. Rylan stared at the sensor display. "Then they can't see us." The Midnight Spear slowed, and 2 frigates, Vanguard and Iron Widow, slipped ahead, gliding through the dark. They weaved between chunks of drifting metal from old battles, staying hidden until the patrol ships were almost within range. Rylan waited. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. Fire. Twin bursts of blue plasma lit the void. The lead patrol ships. Shields shattered instantly, and the next shot ripped through its engines, sending it spinning into darkness. The second patrol ship turned sharply, engines flaring too late. Railgun rounds from the Iron Widow punched holes clean through its hull. The rest of the patrol scattered, comes flaring with distress calls. Jam them, Rylan ordered, within seconds. The Armada's electronic warfare ships drowned enemy channels in static dot. The fight lasted less than 6 minutes. When it was over, 14 council ships were drifting wrecks, and one deliberately was left alive. Tessa frowned. We're letting them warn the others? Yes, Rylan said. Fear will slow them down more than silence. From the wreckage, Armada boarding teams retrieved a valuable prize-encrypted navigation data from the enemy's systems. Back aboard the Midnight Spear, tech officers broke the encryption. The results were better than Rylan hoped. The planet killers. Escort fleet was smaller than expected, and its main shields had a brief recharge delay every 12 minutes. If they timed it perfectly, they could strike before the generator reset. This is our opening, Rylan said, and it won't last long. The Armada pushed forward, slipping into a narrow, uncharted star lane to cut the distance in half. The route was risky-strewn with frozen debris, asteroid fragments, and the shattered remains of old warships. But it would get them there faster than the Council expected. As the ships navigated the narrow path, crews worked in silence. The air on every vessel felt heavy, as if the whole fleet could sense the weight of the moment. They were heading straight for a weapon that could end Earth in seconds. And if they failed, there would be no one left to try again. When they finally exited the star lane, the sensors lit up with new readings. Contact. The sensor officer called. Multiple Dreadnought-class signatures ahead. On the main screen, shapes emerged from the dark, long, jagged silhouettes, moving to block the Armada's path. Tessa's voice was low. They're waiting for us, Rylan's. Jaw tightened. And we won't keep them waiting. The alarms pulsed red across every ship. Crews ran to their stations. Weapons primed. Shields charged. The storm had found them. And the first clash was seconds away. First strike, the dreadnoughts appeared like shadows swallowing the stars. One by one, their massive hulls slid into the light of distant suns, jagged edges glinting. With shield energy, there were more than a dozen, forming a wall of metal between the Black Armada and the planet killer. On the Midnight Spear's bridge, the crew was silent, eyes locked on the main screen. Commander Tessa Ward broke the quiet. They're closing fast. We have less than 2 minutes. Captain Ryland Kane didn't look away from the approaching fleet. Signal the Armada. Formation Delta. Target the lead dreadnoughts first. The Black Armada moved like a single creature ships, breaking from the dark, fanning into attack lines. Weapons primed, shields flared, and missile bays slid open. Range, 20,000 kilometers. The weapons officer called. Fire. The void lit up. Plasma lances from the Midnight Spear tore across the darkness, smashing into the lead dreadnought's shields. Sparks and arcs of energy flared around its hull. A split second later, the Shadowfang fired its railguns, each round punching through armor the thickness of city walls. The first dreadnought buckled under the barrage, its core going critical. The explosion painted the void in a burning sphere of light. The council ships answered. Beams of energy as wide as skyscrapers cut through the dark, forcing the Armada's cruisers to roll and dive. One blast grazed the Iron Widow, sending her spinning off course, hull plating peeling like paper. Widow is hit. Tessa called. Tell them to hold position, Rylan replied. We can't afford to break formation. Fighter squadrons launched from both sides, swarming like angry hornets. Human pilots wove through incoming fire. dropping micro-missiles that tore through the Council's interceptors. On the vanguard, a gunner named Juno gritted her teeth as she tracked an enemy frigate. "Got you," she muttered, releasing a full spread of torpedoes. The frigate exploded seconds later, debris scattering into the void. Raylan's voice cut through the chaos. "Focus on their right flank. Break it, and we can punch through to the planet killer." The Hammerfall and Night Wraith surged forward, hammering the targeted dreadnoughts with synchronized strikes. One by one, their shields failed. The Midnight Spear delivered the killing shot, slicing a dreadnought clean in half. Then came the surprise. A massive, unfamiliar ship emerged from the shadows, sleek, black, with glowing crimson lines running along its hull. It was faster than any dreadnought. Armed with weapons the Armada had never seen. The com crackled with an alien voice. "Human fleet, you are out of time." The new ship fired. Beam of red energy struck the vanguard, punching straight through its shields. The blast blew a hole clean through the vessel, venting fire and crew into space. Tessa's knuckles tightened around the console. "That's their flagship." "Then we take it out," Ryland said, his voice cold. The Armada shifted focus. Missiles and plasma blasts slammed into the flagship's shields, but they held. The enemy ship moved with deadly precision, dodging incoming fire while cutting down human cruisers one by one. Ryland knew they couldn't trade shots forever. "Bring the Judicator forward. Prepare the Super Weapon." The Judicator, the Armada's largest and deadliest ships, slid into position. Its central cannon began to glow with blinding white light, pulling energy from its massive reactors. "Target locked," the gunner confirmed. "Fire." The beam shot out like a spear of sunlight, striking the enemy flagship dead center. Its shields flared, screamed, then collapsed entirely. Raylan didn't wait. "All ships finish it." A wave of plasma fire and missile strikes tore the flagship apart. Its hull split in two, spilling burning debris into space. The explosion lit up the entire battlefield. The remaining Council ships wavered. Without their flagship, their formation broke. The Black Armada pushed hard, driving them back and clearing a path toward the planet killer. But as the last dreadnought fell, the sensor officer's voice shook. "Captain, I'm reading more ships. A lot more. They're coming in from hyperspace. Right on top of the planet killer." Tessa's eyes widened. "It's a trap." Ryland stared at the screen. The planet killer wasn't retreating, it was waiting. And now, a second, even larger fleet was arriving to spring the jaws closed. The trap, the Black Armada's victory glow, lasted less than a minute. On the Midnight Spear's bridge, the cheers from destroying the enemy flagship faded as the sensor. Screens filled with new contacts, dozens of them. The officer's voice was tight. "Multiple Council fleets incoming. Estimated. Over 200 warships." Tessa Ward's eyes narrowed. "They were waiting for you." Ryland Kane didn't speak. He watched the readings climb higher and higher until the entire left side of the display was solid red. The Council hadn't just sent reinforcements. They had prepared an execution. Beyond the debris of the first battle, the planet killer loomed silent, massive, its surface glowing with faint crimson lines. It wasn't moving away. It wasn't retreating. It was waiting like a spider at the center of its web. Tessa's voice was low. "We've been lured right into their kill zone." "They wanted us here," Raylan said. "They want to wipe us out in one strike." The Council reinforcements dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Heavy dreadnoughts took the front, with faster destroyers weaving between them. Behind it all, strange new ships glowed with bright blue energy vessels built for one purpose: to shred shields in seconds. And then the real danger appeared. 4 enormous spires extended from the planet killer's equator, each tipped with glowing cannons. Energy crackled between them like lightning. The ship's AI translated the signal. Planetary eradication sequence initiated. Whelan's jaw tightened. They're going to fire on Earth. Tessa's hands moved over her console. If those cannons reach full charge, the blast will hit the planet in minutes. Then we hit them first, Ryland said. All ships break into strike groups. We cut through before they can lock onto Earth. The Armada surged forward, engines flaring. But the new Council fleet moved faster than expected. Enemy destroyers darted into the human formation, forcing the Armada's ships to split up. Plasma fire and railgun bursts lit the void in chaotic flashes. The Iron Widow took a direct hit from a shield breaker beam, her defenses collapsing in seconds. A swarm of enemy fighters tore into her hull until she exploded in a burst of blue flame. Tessa's voice was clipped. We're losing ships too fast. We won't reach the planet killer in time at this pace. On the Vanguard, Captain Rhee made a desperate choice. She turned her ship into the path of an advancing dreadnought and rammed it at full speed. The collision shredded both vessels, creating a gap in the enemy lines. Ryland seized the opening. Strike Group 3 through the gap. Get to that shield grid. 3 cruisers and 2 frigates punched through, racing toward the planet killer. But the closer they got, the heavier the fire became. In the chaos, the Council's shield breaker. Ships focused on the Midnight Spear. The first beam hit hard, throwing sparks across the bridge. The second tore open part of the port side armor, venting atmosphere into space. Shields at 30%. The officer shouted. Tessa looked at Ryland. If we take another hit like that, we won't, Ryland said sharply. Get me the infiltration team. A small hollow window opened beside the captain's chair, showing a group of armored soldiers aboard the stealth shuttle Ghost Fang. Their leader, Lieutenant Mara Voss, gave a sharp nod. We're ready. Your target is the main shield generator. Get inside the planet killer and shut it down. Whatever it takes. Understood, sir. For Earth. The shuttle peeled away from the Midnight Spear, vanishing into the chaos. Using debris as cover, it slipped between enemy ships and aimed straight for a docking bay on the planet killer's underbelly. On the bridge, the countdown to Earth's destruction ticked on. Charge sequence, 62%, every second. The planet killer's energy grew brighter. The cannons at its equator, sparking with raw power. The infiltration team's cum channel crackled. We're in, moving toward the core. Gunfire echoed in the background. Shouts, the thud of grenades. Then Mara's voice, strained but steady. We're at the generator, starting the overload now. Charge sequence, 81% enemy ships began, pulling back from the Armada, not to retreat, but to get out of the blast radius. The planet killer's cannons now glowed so bright they hurt to look at. Tessa's voice was urgent. Ryland, if the team fails, they won't fail, Ryland said. But his voice was low. Charge sequence, 93%. The comm went dead for 3 long seconds. Then Mara's voice returned, shouting over an alarm. Shield grid collapsing, fire now. The Midnight Spear's gunner didn't hesitate. A volley of plasma torpedoes streaked toward the planet killer, followed by a railgun salvo from the Judicator. The blasts tore into the exposed section, punching through armor and detonating deep inside. One of the equator cannons exploded, breaking. The lightning arc between the spires. Charge sequence, 96%. The planet killer's glow began to falter. But then, from deep within its structure, another energy surge built stronger, faster. The AI's voice was cold. Primary firing sequence locked. Raylan's heart sank. The weapon was going to fire anyway. All ships brace for impact. Rise of Defiance. The countdown blared across the Midnight Spear's bridge. Primary firing sequence, 98%. The planet killers. Equator glowed white hot, its massive cannons trembling with raw energy. Even from thousands of kilometers away, the heat shimmer warped space. Ryland Kane gripped the railing. If that blast fires, Earth's gone. Commander Tessa Ward's voice was sharp. We don't have the firepower left to take it out from here. Ryland didn't answer. His eyes locked on the readouts showing the Judicator, the Armada's last superweapon, ship still intact but badly damaged. Patch me through to the Judicator, he ordered. A static-filled holla appeared. Captain Drex of the Judicator stood. At his console, blood running down his forehead. We're still here, but she's hurt bad, Ryland. Drex, you can overload your core. Drex's eyes widened. You're asking me to ram it? It's the only shot we've got. There was a pause. Then Drex gave a slow nod. For Earth. The Judicator broke formation, accelerating straight toward the planet killer. Its damaged engines screamed, leaving a trail of burning debris in its wake. Council ships moved to intercept, but the Armada's remaining vessels surged forward, throwing themselves into the enemy's path. The Vanguard and Shadowfang took heavy fire, their hulls shattering under relentless beams, but they held the Yao line. Tessa's voice was tense. They're buying the Judicator a clear path. We have seconds before the planet killer fires. Primary firing sequence. 99% on the Judicator. Alarms wailed. Crew members sprinted to the escape pods, but Captain Drex stayed at the helm. His voice came over the comms, steady despite the chaos. Tell my crew's families, we didn't kneel. A massive warship slammed into the planet killer's shield grid. The collision flared brighter than a sun. For a moment, it seemed. The shields might hold, but then they shattered in a shockwave that rocked the Yi. Entire battlefield. The Judicator exploded in a blinding sphere of fire, tearing open the planet killer's hull. Ryland didn't waste a heartbeat. All ships fire everything you've got. Missiles, plasma lances, and railgun rounds streaked into the breach. One shot hit the main reactor chamber, and the glow from the planet killer's equator flickered violently. The countdown froze. At 99%, inside the planet killer, Lieutenant Mara Voss and the surviving members of the infiltration team fought through collapsing corridors. Flames roared from ruptured power lines, and explosions shook the floors. We've got one shot to finish this, Mara said, tossing an overcharged demolition charge into the reactor pit. Let's give it everything. The team turned and ran outside. The demolition charge detonated. A deep, rolling explosion burst from within the planet killer. Cracks of molten metal split across its surface, and entire weapon spires tore free, spinning off into the void. For the first time since it appeared, the giant weapon fell silent. The Council fleet wavered. Without their planet killer and with so many ships destroyed, their lines began to break. The Black Armada pressed forward, hammering them from all sides. One by one, enemy warships exploded or fled into hyperspace. A battlefield became a graveyard of twisted metal and drifting. Wreckage. The comms crackled with voices from across the fleet. Target neutralized. The Council is pulling back. Earth is safe. On the Midnight Spears Bridge, Tessa let out a long breath she didn't realize she was holding. We did it. Ryland looked at the empty space where the planet killer had been. We bought Earth another day? That's all. As the last enemy ships vanished into hyperspace, the Armada drifted in formation, battered but alive. Many ships were gone. Many friends would not be coming home. But Earth still stood, and that was worth every loss. Ryland opened a fleet-wide channel. Today, they told us to kneel. We answered with fire. We are the Black Armada. We will never bow. We will never break. And we will never stop fighting for Earth. The reply came from hundreds of voices across the fleet. For Earth. But even as cheers filled the comms far beyond the battle, deep in Council space, other fleets were gathering. This war was far from over. Aftermath, the battlefield was quiet now. Where moments ago plasma fire lit the darkness, there was only drifting wreckage and the cold light of distant stars. The Black Armada floated in formation, battered and scarred. Entire sections of ships were missing. Hull plating glowed faintly where it had been burned and torn, but the fleet was still there. And so was Earth. In orbit above the planet, people looked up at the sky. The alien hologram that had once demanded their surrender was gone. News channels played shaky footage of the battle from military drones, showing the destruction of the planet killer. Crowds gathered in city squares. In New Berlin, thousands chanted the same words over and over: "We will not kneel." On the Midnight Spears Bridge, Captain Ryland Kane stood with Commander Tessa Ward. They watched Earth grow larger on the screen. As the fleet returned home, Tessa broke the silence. "We lost a third of our ships, and the Judicator." Her voice trailed off. Ryland nodded slowly. "They knew the cost when they launched. We all did. And because of them, Earth still has a tomorrow." Messages began flooding in from across the galaxy. Some were threats from the Council, promising vengeance. But others were different. Encrypted transmissions came from worlds the Council had ruled for centuries. Rebel leaders spoke in hushed voices. "Your defiance gives us hope. If Earth can stand, so can we." In the United Earth Alliance chambers, the President addressed the planet. "Today, we faced extinction. Today, we stood as one. The Black Armada has shown the galaxy that humanity will never bow to tyranny." People cheered, but Ryland knew the truth. The Council would not forget. This day, they would come again harder, stronger, and without warning. Later, in the Midnight Spears strategy room, Tessa pulled up a holographic map of Council territory. Red zones marked the enemy's strongholds. "We hurt them, but we didn't break them. If they launch a full counterattack, Earth won't survive alone." Raylan studied the map. "Then we won't be alone. We'll find every world that's tired of kneeling and give them the same choice we made." Tessa raised an eyebrow. "You're talking about starting a war across the entire Council?" Ryland's gaze was steady. "No, I'm talking about starting a revolution." The following days were a blur of repairs, memorials, and preparation. The Armada's engineers worked around the clock to patch damaged hulls and replace lost weapon systems. In the mess halls, crews spoke quietly about the friends they had lost. Some laughed through the pain, telling old stories. Others sat alone, staring into the distance, knowing they would soon be back in the fight. When the Midnight Spear finally touched down at Earth's main fleet yard, thousands were waiting. Soldiers, engineers, civilians, everyone wanting to see the ships and crews that had saved them. Raylan walked down the ramp to the ground, and the crowd erupted into cheers. But he didn't raise his arms or smile. Instead, he looked at the faces people free for another day, and knew it was enough. That night, in his quarters, he received one last transmission. It was short and unsigned. "The Council has sent assassins. Watch your back." Ryland closed the message and stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council's fleets were already moving, but somewhere else, new allies were rising. Worlds long crushed under the Council's heel were preparing to fight. The war was far from over. On the Midnight Spears Bridge the next morning, the crew stood ready. Engines thrummed. Weapons were online. Tessa stepped beside him. "Course." "Captain?" Ryland smiled faintly. "Set it for the Orion Belt. There's a world there that's ready to burn their chains." The Midnight Spear turned slowly, the rest of the Armada following. In moments, the fleet vanished into the black. Galaxy had heard the message. Earth does not kneel, and the Black Armada would make sure no one else had to.